Hey, everybody. It's that time again. I think it's Tuesday night. It is here anyway, on the island of Oahu. And it's time for another YouTube with Terry Levi. Yeah, according to the experts, after you do something at least 100 times, it gets much easier and you get much better at it. So I think this is probably like number 6 or something in my YouTubes. So you only have like 94 more to go. So if you want to skip this one, this is probably not the one you want to skip because this is a really good one. It's kind of a follow-up on last week. Last week I talked about a book called The Four Tendencies, and I would give you the author's name, but that would save you from looking it up. And that would make it too easy because the more we search for things, I found, at least in myself, that the more I have to look for things, the more I learn and the better I remember things. So the four tendencies, as we talked about last week, or as I talked about last week, are basically the upholder and the obliger, the questioner, and the rebel. And what this book goes on, and the hypothesis that it puts forth, in fact, it's more of it's not a self-help book in the way that it's motivational or inspirational, as we talked about 2 weeks ago. We talked about the types of leaders: informational, inspirational, motivational, and transformational. This is more of an information book. It was motivating to me because I like to find out why I do the stupid things that I do, and also if I can learn why I do things and how I do things and that kind of thing, maybe I can help other people not go through that same thing. I'm 63 years old. I've been through a lot of things, a lot of businesses, 2 or 3 different generations of business, in the fact that when I started, there was no office computers, and then we went to some big PCs that sat on the table, and then we went to smaller PCs, and now we have laptops, and now we have a computer on our phone. And so things have changed a lot as far as the technology goes. Things haven't changed a lot as far as what it takes to be successful in business. And so that's why I like to talk about leadership. And now that companies are a lot bigger and a lot of us want to be coaches, or we're trying to figure out how to gel our teams, whatever size that is, it's important that we realize that everybody's not like us. You know, for a long time, I just judged people by what I knew, which was I'm right? I mean, don't most of us think we're right? Unless we have an inferiority complex, then we think we're wrong, whether we're right or not, which that's a whole nother program. According to Gretchen, who wrote the book, I think it was Gretchen. I won't use her name because I'm not sure it's Gretchen. I think it is Gretchen. You'll find out when you look it up. We are born with these tendencies. So in our world where it's nature versus DNA, whether it's environmental or it's genital, it's not genital. It might be genital, or it's anyway. Yes, because that's a whole nother program too. But as far as leadership goes, and as far as our tendencies to do what we do, if you look back through your life, you'll notice patterns. We used to call them patterns before we had more knowledge and more studies that show that these are actually tendencies that we have in our lives. And as you'll find out when you read the book that I talked about last time, the upholder, it works on the premise that we all work off expectations. There are inner expectations, what we think we need to do, and there are outer expectations, which that's kind of obvious, it's outside our body. And then that's all there is. right? Because we either do what we want or what somebody else wants. So the upholder works with both expectations. They are able to, they're like one of those kind of people that it's down the line, you know? Those kind of people, you may even be one of those kind of people. That's okay, because most of the top CEOs of big companies are upholders. They're able to maintain and do what the outside world expects them to do, and also keep true to their values. Where it gets skewed is when they happen to become tyrants or something like that, and then that's a whole nother program. We don't have to worry about that because I don't know. Anyway, there's the upholder, and then there's the obliger. The obliger works with outer expectations. That's where their main focus is. They will do things for other people that they won't do for themselves because they're not. That's just the way they're programmed. That's the way their hard drive came. So you work with them different than you do with an upholder. You work with a questioner, which is the next one, different than you do an obliger or an upholder, because the questioner works from their inside, works from their inner expectations, not so much what the outer expectations are. They will curve. These will all change depending upon the pressure put on us, depending upon all of that kind of stuff, our personalities, all of that. But basically, when it comes right down to it, the questioner does what it believes is the right thing to do. Whether it is or not is not a fact. It just is what they believe. And they ask questions to find out more information, to either create a new belief, change their belief, or make their belief stronger. So they're constantly asking questions. They're not asking questions to annoy us, which is what I used to think. So this works really good for kids. This works really good for spouses, relationships. Everything we do in this world is a relationship. Even the relationship we have with ourselves is where the rebel comes into play, which is unfortunately me. A rebel does what they want. They're all about freedom. They will acquiesce to outside pressures if they have to. They will acquiesce sometimes, but not very often, to the pressures they put on themselves, because they don't do expectations. I always wondered why I always would, if somebody told me that I can't do it, if somebody came up to me and said, you can't do that, my mind just automatically clicks into, you watch me. I'll prove you wrong. I used to do that on the playground. I did it in fights. I did it, football, the whole program. It was just to prove other people wrong. And enjoy it, yeah, most of it. And a lot of times what it did, though, was damage me, because sometimes, even though you prove them wrong, it's very damaging to you psychologically, emotionally, and a lot of times physically. In fact, one of the prime examples of that was my first wife. When we told her mom that we got engaged, she said, "No, you can't marry her. You can't support her the way she came from a fairly wealthy family. You can't support her in the way she's, you're just not good enough." Yeah, I said, "You watch me, woman." And so I did. I ended up marrying her for 12 years. I never could, no matter how much money I made or didn't make, no matter where I was, new houses, new cars, nothing. It was never going to be good enough, and it never worked. Mainly because I don't like ultimatums, and my ex-wife was big on those. So there was not any, there was not any cheating or anything like that going on in the marriage or anything. We were totally incompatible, and she was smart enough to leave me. But what I'm saying is that but if I had have known these things, I may have done things different. I know I would have done things different with her. I know I would have done things with my schooling. I know I would have done things different with my kids. I know I would have done things different with my other businesses. And that's okay, because that would mean I wouldn't be where I'm at, and I really like where I'm at. So I'm not wishing I could go back and change things. What I am saying is that if these things can help you as an individual to better know yourself, to better communicate with the outside world, to make your family happier, to make your business grow, so that people can mesh. And I recommend that all leaders read the book. It's one of the very few that I recommend that all readers read the book, because it will help you see the different tendencies people have. And that way it will help you be a better leader, so you can get them to mesh. There's another book that I recommend you read. It's called Rapport, and it's just called Being in Rapport. It's written, 30 years ago. But that's another one of those things that help us to, as leaders, to be in rapport with our people. And it also works really good in sales. That's where most of this stuff came up, it was in sales and sales training, and now is transformational and all that kind of stuff, The Secret and all that stuff. But most of it was written back in the early 1900s. The Think and Grow Rich, the You'll Believe It When You See It, all of these kind of theories came up, and there were crackpots. Now we can prove it with science, and so that's even better. So I'm hoping that you will read this book by Gretchen. It's called The Four Tendencies, and I know that it will help you in your life and with other people. Don't force your spouse to read it or anybody else on your team to read it unless they really want to know. If they want to know how best to work with you or to work with others, then it's a good read. It's not that big a book. It's just really quick, very factual. And some of it is a little too factual for me, because I'm just looking at tendencies, right? But it does go into great depth, or not great depth, but at least a couple paragraphs, 2 or 3 paragraphs, on how each different group can work best with each other. How an obliger and a questioner can work good together. How a upholder and a questioner can work together. Even how an upholder and a rebel, which are like water and oil, can work together if they're willing to understand their basic tendencies and to work with that kind of thing. Sometimes you just have to, if you know that person that's on your team is really qualified and really everything, but they just keep getting in there, they're just not doing it, maybe one of these tendencies will help you figure out. Maybe you just have to say, dude, or dudess, whichever, we don't want to be politically correct here, no matter what, because it's all the me or whatever it is programs out there. But the thing is, we want to, if we need to tell that person, you're just not cut out for this, Jack. You know what I mean? You can't do it. And even though we know they can, and they know they can, but sometimes they just need that little spark that says, just watch me, Jack. Or Jess, or whoever your name has to be. I can do it, So if we can use these tendencies, and I know you can, it will help us a lot in our lives. Hey, have a great weekend and a great week, because it's only Wednesday, most of us, or soon will be. Bye-bye. Okay. I keep pushing this thing because it says end stream, and I push right there, and I know we're still on, but okay, bring this on. Bye.